Good morning, everyone. Abel Cunningham, Bigfoot scientist, weapons expert. One of the questions I get a lot as a leading Bigfoot expert and weapons expert is, what is my choice of handgun for self-defense when I'm out in the field researching Bigfoot? And that's a difficult question to answer. It really comes down to a lot of personal choice, what works best for you. So keep that in mind as I'm going through this video. I don't intend this to be a recommendation. This is just what works for me. And so here we have two of my favorite handguns. We've got a Smith & Wesson revolver, 357 revolver. It's a single double action. And we've got it loaded with Federal 357 158 grain ammo. Another one we have here is a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 9mm. Now this one holds 17 in the clip, one in the hole. That's capable of making some squatches turn cold. A lot of guys like their Glocks, their SIGs. I picked this one just because it fits in my hand better. You know, I tried the Glock, didn't like the way it fit. So that's what I mean about personal preference. You got to pick something that works for you. This one fits in my hand pretty well. Pretty accurate gun, and it's got a lot of ammo. The drawback, if you look at the two bullets, you can see just by the size of the casing and the slug, look at how much more power is behind that 357. 158 grams versus 115 grams. That means it's going to have a lot more power coming out of the barrel and a lot more stopping power. In terms of accuracy, both of these guns are about the same. This one, like I said, you can fire off more shots more rapidly. One time, I actually shot a rabid squirrel from 10 yards with this thing. So if you've ever shot at a squirrel, especially a rabid one that's coming right at you, that'll tell you what sort of accuracy this thing has. But most of the time, I prefer to use the 357. And that's purely because of the stopping power, right? Like we talked about before, bigger bullet, more powder behind it. It's going to have a lot more stopping power, which is what's important when you're thinking about the most likely scenario for Bigfoot. And that's one of the things you should always consider when selecting a personal defense firearm, whether it's to protect yourself against Bigfoot or to protect yourself against other people. You know, what's the most likely scenario that you're going to run into? And in my case, most likely scenario is going to be being attacked by one Bigfoot, maybe two, right? So in that sort of situation, I'd prefer to have the stopping power and sacrifice some ammo. I mean, Bigfoot's not going to shoot back at me. He's not armed. And I don't think I need more than 1 or 2 shots to hit a Bigfoot with this thing. So I don't know why I would ever need more than 6 rounds in the field. And if I do, I always carry a few spare in my pocket. It's not like I'm going to be getting into a gunfight with Bigfoot. Now, if, on the other hand, I was carrying in a civilized area, I might go with something like this, where, you know, in today's environment, we got lots of riots, we got lots of crazy people on both sides of the political spectrum. You know, you never know when you might need to take down a whole bunch of people. So that's where something like this, with a little bit more ammo, would come in handy. All that being said, let's test them out and see how they do on the range. Behind me, I've got set up some targets with Yeti on. I wanted to get a Bigfoot, but evidently no one makes Bigfoot targets, at least not that I could find. So Yeti, close enough resemblance. I always say you should practice shooting at what you're going to shoot at. If you're hunting for deer, you should shoot at a deer target. If you think you're concerned about people self-defense, you should shoot at one of those little silhouettes. Me, I'm concerned about being attacked by a Bigfoot, so I'm shooting at a target that most closely resembles Bigfoot, at least that I could find. Okay. All that said, I think it's time to fire off some rounds and let's see how they do. Get my earplugs in. So I'm going to shoot at the one on the left with the 357, and I'll shoot at the one on the right with the 9mm. Let's see how we do. Not too bad. See how the 9 does. Gotta remember to put one in the chamber. Not too bad. Let's go check out the target. Okay, so now let's see how we did. Now, like I said, the one on the left shot with the 357. We were shooting a little bit low. That could have been shooter error. Could be the gun needs to be sighted in, but we'll work on that. But either way, pretty tight grouping, except for that one flyer up there. That one was my fault. But either way, that'd probably be a pretty big, dead Bigfoot. And you got to consider these targets are probably, you know, a quarter the size of a Bigfoot. I'm shooting at 10 yards. So any reasonable shooting distance, those would have been critical hits. The 9mm, same thing, pretty good grouping in the middle. I was pulling a little bit to the right. That's probably my fault. It just shows I need a little bit more time on the range. But as you can see, both pretty accurate guns. Both put a good size hole in the Bigfoot. You can see the 9mm though is going to do a lot more. Sorry, the 357 is going to do a lot more damage. Okay, so now we're going to do something a little bit different, just to demonstrate the difference in stopping power between the 357 Magnum and the 9mm. Behind me, I've set up 2 plastic water bottles filled with a red liquid. Now that'll simulate what happens when a bullet penetrates a Bigfoot and expands upon impact. And we'll take a look at the bottles afterwards and see if we can see any difference. So here goes. Get the earplugs on. That looks like it did some damage. Now with the 9. Let's take a look. Alright, so you can see the one that got hit with the 357 Magnum blew a hole out the other end, and it penetrated the bottle so hard it actually blew out the bottom of the bottle. The one that I shot with the 9mm hit it a few times, and look, the exit holes are just going right through it. So just a little bit of demonstration about the stopping power of a 357 Magnum versus a 9mm, and that's why my weapon of choice when I go out in the field is the 357 Magnum. But thanks for listening. Hope this was useful for you, and be safe out there.